more panel away before our first break. So this next one is going to make somebody rich, I think. It's the next $1 billion game investment opportunity. So if you're looking for someone to go in on that with, and you can supply 100% of that investment, let me know. So I want to introduce Martin Gray, President of the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences. He's going to come up and he's going to introduce his panelists.
No guarantees on $1 billion. I apologize, but the four gentlemen that are going to come out are going to have some really good insights, I think, and at least point us toward opportunities that we might not see because we're all focused on what we're trying to get done. Just a little bit on the Academy. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar, but the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences was founded in the 90s. We won the DICE Awards and the DICE Summit. With 22,000 members strong, and game makers are who choose our awards or nominate our awards, and so I think it has a great deal of integrity. The DICE Awards will be in Las Vegas in February, February 4, 5, and 6. The awards on the 6th, the summit on the 5th and 6th, and the sort of theme is the new golden age, and I think we are entering a new golden age. These folks are going to talk about it today. So I want, today we're going to talk about globalization, platform change, the speed at which things are moving. And speed always creates opportunity, creates challenges, creates flameouts, but really opportunities. And these guys see way more than we see on a day-to-day basis. And hopefully we can find some opportunities out of this. Tim Merrill, Managing Director of DigiCapital, based in London, analyst, game investor, app investor, has been around the business for a long time, has some really good insights into where we're going. Sonny Dillon, as a partner at Signia Ventures, they're an early stage investor. Rick Thompson from Playdom founded the investment group. They have a number of investments in early stage game companies, trying to place their bets on people maybe past the seed stage, maybe not, but up and coming. Raymond Yang, who is the founding partner of West Summit Capital, an entrepreneur from China. His objective with his fund is to find companies past seed stage, past early stage, but where they can benefit from doing business in China and gaining partnerships in China, and he'll have some insights on how we can take advantage of opportunities there. And all of these folks, by the way, are very accomplished entrepreneurs in their own right. And then everyone in the room knows him. It's Lars Butler, Triangle Worlds, formerly of EA, now in the investment community. It seems we spent the last hour and a half with the guys talking, and everyone that walked in the room had to hug Lars, so I'm not sure what that means, other than they either like him or they're afraid of him, which could be true. So I'm going to lob some questions individually at you guys, and then kind of go from there. And I encourage you to agree to disagree. If you disagree with something, and these folks don't see as much as you guys probably do from the investment side. So the first one's going to go to Lars, because he got the most hugs early. But when we were on a conversation earlier in the week, we talked about how fast things are going, how things are developing, development times, distribution times, success, failure, mega hits, all that sort of thing. And that presents, one opportunity. If you can create a great game in a short period of time, you can make a lot of money. It also creates difficulties. And I think some of the best opportunities come with difficulties. So I'd ask you, what do you see as we speed up and things go so fast? What are the difficulties? And then what kind of opportunities might come out of those for the next group of entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so, obviously, you can have a mega hit overnight. You can build a $3 billion company in 18 months. And, with broadband speed doubling every 9 months, chip capacity doubling every 18 months, all these trends just build on each other. So everything is happening faster and faster. And I think number one, that means for the incumbents, it is virtually impossible in some systematic way to manage innovation in-house and think that they could just depend on their own R&D and development departments to basically be out there and create the next mega hit. So they have to have a much more dynamic approach and basically be plugged into the startup scene around the world and really see what's going to happen there. I also think it's a huge challenge for traditional investors that have maybe one partner per industry. And to think that that kind of high-level view would allow you to spot some of these megatrends early enough before they go through the roof, I think is preposterous. So you have to be able to really understand the industry, be on the ground, have a team of industry experts that have the right access. And that is, I think, on the flip side, a giant opportunity for smaller companies that can come out of nowhere, or for a new breed of investors that really understand the market and that see everything. And not just in the US or in Silicon Valley, but they see what's new in Korea, they see what's new in Helsinki, they see what's new in Berlin. So you have to be able to do that. So that's basically the flip side of the risk and the opportunity that I see.
Well, I would put it back to any one of you. Your suggestion then is that you might be better off outside of a large organization and seeing things differently. I mean, Tim, you've been around for a long time.
I think there are a few advantages. In terms of where the opportunities lie, our primary focus right now is around mobile. I mean, you've basically got, it was 15 billion revenue from mobile apps last year. It'll be growing over 5 times to over 70 billion by 2016. So, we lose that for 20 years. I haven't seen the market that big growing that quickly before. So mobile's definitely a big part of the equation. But within mobile, one of the great things about that is it's very low capital intensity. What I mean by that is hundreds of thousands or single-digit millions to develop anything on mobile. So as an investor, it's a huge opportunity because it means you can have very high product counts within your equity portfolios. In other words, if you invest in mobile games or mobile apps more broadly, rather than having 25 bets on 25 companies, if each company is throwing off 2 or 3 products on average a year, you hold it for 5 years, you might have 150 to 400 products within your equity portfolio. So as an investor, you can basically deal with the inherent product risk by having a lot of products you're investing in. I completely agree with Lars. As a strategic, as a corporate, that's really tough because that's sort of risk management, deal flow. We're seeing about 1,000 deals across the US, China, Japan, South Korea, and Europe annually. The big corporates don't see that, particularly more at the early stages. They haven't gone through relationships. So I think definitely for the corporates, whether it be technology, media, telecoms, games, specifically investing into funds that are actually going off and doing that, and that's their business. That's all they do. They're completely laser focused. Very much more chance to get the insight and deal flow and invest in tools.
So what I'm hearing is it's tough to do in a big corporate environment, and I think even big corporate environments would agree. You love mobile. I'll do the British pronunciation, mobile. But where is when we look at the changing landscape outside of mobile and outside of just game development? Where do you guys see the great opportunity to make money? What's kicking people's butts they need to solve? Sonny?
You mean outside of gaming?
Yeah, well, no, within the whole ecosystem.
Sure. So I think that wearable technology has been something that we've been looking at for a while. Augmented self, augmented reality, gaming on wearable devices like Google Glass. One of our portfolio companies, Mind Pirates, actually leading the charge on that. We're very, very happy to see the exciting stuff that they're coming out with. I think that that's going to be an increasing area of content you're going to be seeing on a whole new slew of devices. That's a long term away before those get commoditized to the state of your smartphone now. But that's one area. I think messaging is another area that is opening up big doors for the gaming ecosystem. It's something we've been all talking about for a while.
And actually, let's talk about messaging. I mean, Asia leads the charge there. Certainly, and so, and Lars, you and I were talking about that earlier. Is that becomes a bigger gaming platform? What kind of opportunities does that present? And Raymond, you're probably in a unique position to speak to that, I would say.
Yes, as you all know that we're the investor in the Unity and Twitch. Actually, this is interesting enough. This is a sort of a very unique component of this ecosystem. And I certainly, when we started invest this deal, we didn't realize that. But then you look at it today, the major platform or almost the operating system, this iOS and Android, they're taking whatever 80%, whatever percentage of the market share. There's no third one even come up. Hopefully there's something like that. And certainly now the Samsung is making their own operating system, and then some others. So I hope that there will be new opportunity there that taking more market share to grow into a so-called billion-dollar companies there. So this is only one example. And certainly Twitch is a very interesting angle of that. But then not just this company, but if you think through this sort of a opportunity, you still see there's some other kind of thing, for example, something called content discovery. Because on the online gaming industry, there are certain big games everybody plays. But the trend is going to the mobile games, which you're talking about many other small games, which can be next sort of Angry Bird, Crazy Pig, or whatever. The games that you need those kind of sort of a choose opportunity there that also can make lots of money, but also provide us kind of a very unique opportunity.
I think also from a platform perspective, actually a question, show of hands, how many folks in here are developing for over-the-top platforms like KakaoTalk, Line, WeChat, WhatsApp? If anybody in the room developing any of those platforms? Yeah, one. You people need to go look outside. If you look at the South Korean market, for instance, 6 of the top 10 games in their app store on KakaoTalk. Now, that sounds fantastic. You know, you go on one of these over-the-top messaging platforms, they've got games built in. It's basically Facebook on a mobile, to put it simplistically. They've got curated game discovery, so you get around game discovery problem, what Hayzat was talking about earlier. That's not an issue. But business model, huge challenge. You've got to pay Apple or Google their cut. 2 levels. Then you've got to pay KakaoTalk their cut. I was talking to a developer in South Korea last week, and they were saying they're seeing less than 10% of their own turnover. So that's great if you get to very high volumes. It's fantastic if you get high volumes. But for a developer, it's difficult. From a platform perspective, there's a really interesting game that some of the smarter ones are now starting to play. They provide a messaging platform or a browsing platform, and they're providing what some of them are calling a super app. All it's really doing is tying in all the other services, whether it be monetization or game discovery or analytics, into their platform. So for a developer, all you need to do is develop the core functionality. They take care of everything else, which sounds fantastic, except that once you have success, you can't go anywhere else. So thinking about how you play that game is really important. Our experience has been, when it comes to creativity, innovation, the US and Europe are still very strong. When it comes to the science of making money on games, China, Japan, South Korea are about 18 months to 2 years ahead. So I encourage
All one wants to make money. They just want to make great games. Right? It's all about the art, right?
But I'd encourage all of you to go to China Joy next year and see how the world's changing, because if you don't, you might get disrupted.
But you know, this trend to have these over-the-top messenger apps being very, very powerful, I think is very hard to stop. You know, years ago, Tencent built, now one of the most powerful media companies in the world around their QQ Messenger. And because Messenger solves a fundamental problem, right, of customer acquisition and retention. It's very easy to recruit somebody, and it's very easy to keep people in the long run. And that's why every game always a big challenge. So Messenger is a very powerful thing. And Messenger on the phone is even more powerful because it's a communication device, it's one of the fundamental things you do, and the carriers are still charging for text. So the value proposition of the Messenger is enormous. So you have WeChat, basically, Tencent is repeating the same strategy there. It's going to be, a very powerful force. You have Line, you have Kakao, and in the West you have WhatsApp and Kik, essentially. WhatsApp is light years away from gaming. But Kik is very interesting, I think, because they also have a better approach in some ways, that they're not based on your phone number, but on the username. And for gaming or any kind of viral app, it's not so good to really give out your phone number. So I think there is a whole new ecosystem being created around those messenger apps, and that's definitely something from an investor perspective and from a game developer perspective to watch. And by the way, a pitch, Ted Livingston, the CEO of Kik, is a good friend of mine. If anybody's interested in gaming on there, you should talk to me.
But that's also very difficult to invest. Once you have this ecosystem like WeChat built up, they can make one game very, very hot. So therefore, where you see the, certainly there will be a game developer there, they can do using that, considered as the game publisher. But for an investor point of view, where do you see that kind of investment opportunity? Because, Tencent's there, so that's a challenge. But
I think that these guys are starting to see themselves now. Like there's rumors about Snapchat's $3.6 billion valuation. My money's on Tencent is probably the guy that they're talking to. Anyone knows? I don't. That's what I'm guessing. For a WeChat combo, Tencent owns, I think, 14% in KakaoTalk as well, the leading Korean messenger. India's got Hype, which is a RT carrier-based messenger platform that they're trying to put games on now too. So
there's also Line.
yeah, so this is the thing. So maybe 2 years ago, I realized that, I think her name was Jeannie Han, ex-head of corporate strategy at Paramount, was leaving to go run Line's US operations. At that point, I realized it's going to be a big content play that we're probably going to be making. And we just saw Q2 of this year, 50% of their $100 million earnings were all from games and content that they're bringing aggressively onto the platform. So it's gone beyond stickers, emojis, to actually more interactive entertainment now.
Do you guys see, we're talking about messenger apps, that kind of thing. One of the biggest challenges in game development, obviously making a great game, a new idea, something fun to play, but it's distribution. And finding your way on, in the Apple Store, Android, or Amazon, or whatever, is a really tough deal with so many games and apps out there. Do you guys see anything coming that will become a new distribution platform that people should be looking at early?
I think I touched upon it. I think wearables, there's going to be separate app stores and stuff that come attached to different wearables in the future. I'd be surprised if that's not currently in the works, and it's not something we hear about with the big market push that accompanies the device launch.
Yeah, the China situation is very unique. That first of all, there are probably 300-400 different kind of almost you call the portals where you can do distributions. However, probably I would say 80% of traffic are concentrated in top 3, the major like Tencent, like Achievement 360, right? Those kind of people. So it's limited that because once you have the traffic come to this only few places, and on each places you can only have a limited game there. So that's a very, very competitive situation. Even you have lots of games, contents available. So that's very interesting situation, different than here.
I think to build on that, there's another opportunity out there. If you talk to the large Chinese app stores, large Chinese mobile and online companies, both games and otherwise, they seem to have a general strategy in common right now, which is trying to find great IP in the West that can actually work in the Chinese market. And they are actively going through all the markets in the world, talking to every developer they can, who they think is great, to bring the content in. That's the first thing. The second thing is that many of them are now looking to globalize. It's a push from the government as well as from the companies to try and go out. So if you can help them in that way, there's a lot of opportunity, because from an economic perspective, the Chinese, Japanese, and South Korean companies are so much stronger than their counterparts in the West.
That's a very true point, which I hope that the kind of message I can deliver to the audience here, meaning that I personally, when I'm in China, I feel those people, the game publishers that were in the game, they're so hungry for Western-made games. And interesting enough, the game is such international. Almost every hot game here, the people there have no media. So therefore, I think that everybody knows it's a great market there. Or certainly there's a trick there, meaning at very high level, you look at this huge market, great distribution, game publishing opportunities there. But then you get closer, you're putting your feet on the ground, then you start to hit lots of roadblocks, the blocks there, and also the tricky thing happening, which hopefully this panel may not have enough time to talk about that, but that's...
So Raymond, that sounds like a pitch, that you need me to get to China, which is good. I like that.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, 8 out of 10, this comes from Tim's data, but of the largest M&A transactions through the third quarter have been driven through either Japan, China, or South Korea, and everybody here is aware of that, but that's a huge number, 8 out of 10. And I guess my question would be, is that just an anomaly, or is that something that we should look for in the future, that they will be, Asia will be the drivers and the consolidators of this business, this industry?
That's the genesis of the data.
Basically, both last year and for the first 3 quarters of this year, 8 of the top 10 acquisitions have been from Chinese, Japanese, and South Korean acquirers. Our views on what's driving that are a few things. The first thing is scale. Without being pejorative, there aren't many people in America. So if you're looking at a market where you're predominantly free to play, and therefore you need to get to very high volumes, China obviously has a huge advantage. The depth of the Japanese and South Korean markets in terms of monetization give them a huge advantage, because the sort of monetization strategies that work here in the West, in China, Japan, South Korea, you get monetization that happens so much faster in any game that you use compared to here. So much better the science of making money. What that translates to is more revenue, much higher profitability, high growth rates. And I got just a quick point on the IPO markets as well. People have been very excited about the potential IPOs in the West. Actually, hands in the audience, how many people here know about the last 2 IPOs in the games market in the last month in China? Anybody? 4Game, IGG, 2 IPOs. Nobody has heard of them. And it's just part of the huge consolidation and growth wave coming out of that market.
Yeah, they're also not in, they don't have a legacy business. They don't have an old console business. They went to online first. They went to, mobile adoption much earlier. They invented the free-to-play model. So in some ways, it's the innovator's dilemma all over. Since you are not invested in these old parts of the gaming industry, you can focus on all the new parts. And then, of course, it's 5.5 billion people. So, it also represents the largest chunk of the world's population. So those 2 trends are basically coming together. And I don't think we should expect anything to change. I think, it's only getting more dominant.
Also, you mentioned earlier that
And if I could just follow up a little bit there, you just brought up 2 points, and Raymond and I were talking earlier, and it's not just scale in China. There are other things there that make China a player here, and I think you just hit on one of them, and that is they don't have to deal with the old consoles and whatever else. They're dealing with all the new businesses. And I'd love to hear your comments on that.
Yeah, so that will also actually, they don't have to deal with the old stuff, which means all the creativity is going into new endeavors. Years ago when, piracy for any other media content was rampant, you had all the creative minds going into free-to-play and gaming because it's hard to pirate. And so it's innovative, it's new, and so we should expect much more of that. And by the way, we should also then expect much more innovation from other parts of the world that don't have legacy. There's a friend of mine here in the audience that built a mobile gaming business in Jordan. And, they also don't have any kind of legacy, right? So you can actually, Nora, if you're here, so you can build, great new businesses everywhere. And Asia, has the advantage of the extra scale, of course.
One thing I want to say that, given these sort of a particular culture pattern or reason, as we all know notoriously that the Chinese people do not want to pay for software, they don't want to pay for a game. So therefore, that's the born creation of this called the free to play, and also more is these virtual goods. I think those things, I think that can be borrowed and learned by the Western world, because in that way, actually you see that opportunity. So for example, where do you put that kind of particular point that when you place a certain point, say, sorry, you got to pay next level, or you got to play to buy weapon or buy virtual goods. That's, I think, Chinese game developer has pushed that to kind of a limit. That if it can be learned on this side, there's more money can be made. Or that's another thing. Sorry, I have one more thing. Back to your previous question about the innovation with consolidation. Because the world, I see the trends more moving to the mobile games, which is a very low barrier to make, meaning there's 3, 4, 5 smart guys coming from anywhere or nowhere can make the next big crazy birds or whatever. So therefore, the larger corporation actually facing the challenge because they're harder for them to make a newer one because people can easily quit their job when they have the kind of idea, the creator one. So that's kind of true.
Two quick responses to that. I actually think so. Categories like mobile mid-core, I think that we're really interested in out here in the West, from the venture community at least. That's going to take a little bit longer time before that's not going to disrupt the free-to-play market on PC gaming in Southeast Asia. It's just not going to happen. As you see rising penetration of tablets and faster streaming infrastructure, et cetera, you will see a rise of those kinds of games like League of Legends on the tablet, for example. I think that's one thing. The other thing that I was going to talk about from a path to liquidity perspective as an investor, I think right now you've got folks that we just announced a portfolio company today that got funding from Nexon. So Nexon's been very interested in doing deals out here recently. But whether it's Nexon, Gung Ho, or IPOs in Europe like King that's going to issue some liquidity and return to investors, I think that you can't. That's not going to be indefinite. The gaming markets heat up, as I'm sure Tim can attest to, and they can cool down. They heat up, they cool down. So
I mean, actually, I take the opposite view around mobile specifically. You've got to think about the underlying growth drivers. So, okay, it's a 15 billion market. Last year it'll be a 70 billion market within 3.5 years. That's a pretty fundamental growth. And the profitability of that market is also quite fundamental. So I don't think, in terms of what's happening around mobile, it's a short-term bubble. There are some bubbly transactions, no question. But in terms of the actual overall path, I think it's pretty solid in terms of the underlying economics.
it will take one calamitous IPO similar to the one that Shell named in here. And that would
Actually, in relation to the IPO market, in the games specifically, it goes through 2-year cycles because you get those calamitous ones, and every couple of years the one comes back, that's just happening again. So you'll get dips and troughs, but that overall growth path, that's there.
Okay, and we are we're actually not out of time, we have 6 seconds, but I'm going to ask this really quickly. My question will probably be longer than your answers, but I think people would be interested, I certainly am. If you had a favorite niece or nephew, if you had a son or daughter, if you had, and you guys have already heard this, but if you had to direct someone that wanted to go find success in our ecosystem, where would you point them? Geographically, platform, whatever, just quick answer.
Well, since I'm from the industry, I would say that any skill that is incredibly transferable. So if you're a great artist, a great engineer, a great designer, it really doesn't matter. Right now probably you want to start in mobile.
Lars, I told you that was not going to be a good answer. You got to pick.
no conditions. Yeah.
No, but I mean, the one thing that will never change is that this industry changes faster and faster. So that's why you pick something that is transferable, that you can use in 2 years or 3 years, because it won't be mobile games, then it will be something else.
It was a very political answer, but
As an investor, institutional investor, I would put money into the game ecosystem, whatever the component. As my angel investor, I put money into the game developer studio with good people.
okay.
If it's a family member of mine that's looking at their career going forward, I would say go become an iOS or Android developer from the best place that you possibly can. If that happens to apply to games now, great. Otherwise, you'll always be able to find a good backend to leap forward from.
One of the ways we think about this is between games or apps that are device intensive, and most of the value is on your phone or tablet, or cloud intensive, where basically most of the value is actually out in the cloud somewhere. Most of the games models, apps models, are actually currently around device intensive. The SaaS models around cloud, where we see some of the big opportunities going forward, and in games, that's hardly been tapped. So go there.
Okay. We are out of time. Thank you very much. Thank you. And